for your school all of the classes that have been set up when you log into the MyLexia site. So that's what I'm seeing here for this one school. As a teacher, I'm only going to be able to see the information on the class where I am listed as the teacher. So in this first class, this teacher is, if let's say I'm Stolz, I'll be able to see the students that are in my class in this class overview. So kind of gives you a sense of the different views, whether you are a school admin or a teacher, in terms of what you might see when you log in to the MyLexia site. So I'm going to log out of your site, and then I'm going to log back into the MyLexia site, and I'm going to go to the Core 5 area. So I'm using class at core5demo.com, and the password is success. And this is also posted in your handout under session 2, this information. All right, so here we are at the Lexia demo district, and we're looking at the kindergarten class. I have the option to look at other classes, but I'm just going to leave it right here at Lemmer K overview. So this is the kindergarten class in this particular school. And we're seeing the, so I'm going to kind of like have you gaze over to the left where you see some tabs: reading, assessment, resources, manage. So these are the major sections of the MyLexia site. When you log in, you'll always be in this reading tab, which gives you access to all of the data. So if I'm Lemmer and this is my class, when I log into MyLexia, this is what I'm going to see. I don't have to try to find my class; it'll automatically come up. So the class table, I'll be able to see all the students that are who have been added to my class, what grade level of material they're working on, and what level in Lexia, as well as their usage this week, their progress this week, and their predictor. So what we're going to do first is talk about that class action plan, and that's up at the top. So what we've done is we've pulled data from this table up under these 4 buttons so that you can easily access this information in 5 minutes. So if you wanted to see, do I have any students this week that need usage? I'm going to go right to this usage tab, and I can see there's 4 students. If I click on this button, it will open up the information, and I can see here are my 4 students who have not met their target number of minutes. This column will tell me how many minutes have they worked this week. Now the week in Lexia starts on Monday. So on Monday morning, all of the total number of minutes column will be reset to 0. So anytime the student works Monday through Sunday, their minutes will be reflected in this total minute column. And you'll also see the target number of minutes. And you'll see how many more minutes they need and when was the last time they logged in. So you get some really good information.
Beth, I'm sorry, we do have a question. Can we take that, please?
Of course.
We have a participant asking about the assessment section. They are not able to see it there on their account when they log into Lexia.
They're not able to see the assessment?
Yes, the blue section that you have there on the left, you have reading and then you have assessment.
Oh, assessment. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Because in the demo site, we're seeing some additional data. Lexia thank you. That's a really good observation. Lexia does have another product called Rapid, which is an assessment. So if your school had Rapid, you would be able to see data on their Rapid scores as well. So Good point. On the demo site, it shows this assessment tab, but in your site, it wouldn't show that if that wasn't a product that your district has purchased, which which it is not. Good catch there. All right, so so needing usage. So this is so if you had wanted to see how are my students this week with meeting their target number of minutes, you can easily see that under the action plan need usage. Really important button is this struggling button, and that harkens back to the that instructional design at the unit level. Remember, students need to demonstrate mastery in Core 5 at 90 to 100% in every single unit. And when they do, they move on. And then the software has that scaffolding built in, right? From standard to guided practice to direct instruction to support the student as they're kind of working to mastering that concept. In Core 5, if they're struggling, if they branch to that instruction step twice, then they will their name will show up here as needing help. So these are the students who in this kindergarten class need help. It'll tell you their student's name, and it'll tell you their instructional priority. So some of these students are low, high, medium. It has to do with where they're at in the program and how far away they are from getting to the end of their grade level by the end of the school year. And so it's just a way of saying, here are some high priority people who are further behind. And so we're giving you that information there. And then a link to the lesson. And all of these columns are sortable, so I could sort on lesson name. So I can see, here are, I've got 3 people who need help on basic concepts, 2 on beginning sounds, and so on. And then when we were looking at this by student name, we saw that there was a couple of students who were struggling in multiple areas. So Glenn is struggling in rhyming and in picturing keywords. The other column, status, has to do, is just for your administrative work. So if you, and this is just a little toggle button, delivered to not delivered, it's a way to keep track of whether you have connected that student with a, in this case, with a resource. If you're working with the students in your classroom, it would be like, I met with that student and delivered a lesson for that student. So that's just for keeping track. And if you haven't had a chance, if you didn't have a chance to explore a Lexia lesson, this is, there's a couple of ways to access them. One is through the library in this resources section. The other is we provide a link right to that lesson right in the struggling tab. So Glenn is struggling on rhyming. If I click on this link, it will open up a Lexia lesson on rhyming. And what I'm going to do is just kind of review the components of a Lexia lesson. They're all designed the same. They're going to start with a description, and then there's going to be a scripted lesson. So especially in these times of remote learning, if you're sending this lesson home, somebody who's not a teacher could walk through this lesson because it is a scripted lesson going from direct instruction on rhyming and then moving to some guided practice activities, independent application, and then wrap up. So it's a scripted lesson that a parent could follow in terms of working with the student. And there are some adaptations. So if you think that the student, maybe you've sent the lesson home, the student is still struggling, they may need just another approach. So here's some other ways, or maybe you're going to have a Zoom meeting with some of the students who are struggling on the same concept. You might use some of these activities as a different way to work on that topic. And then at the end of each lesson are some activities that go along with the lesson. So here's this will be referenced in that script that goes along with that lesson. So I'm going to close that that lesson, and then just I want to say one more thing about the struggling tab. The student's name will stay on this list until they go into the program and demonstrate that they understand, demonstrate mastery at that standard step, and then move on. So just because you sent the lesson home doesn't mean that their name goes off the list. You can kind of indicate delivered, not delivered here. And then when Glenn gets that extra instruction, logs back into the Core 5 program, works on rhyming and moves on, then his name will come off this list. And you also have a button here called All Delivered Lessons. So every time a student's name has come up as needing a lesson, you will have a running tally of the student's name and the lessons that they needed and when they were delivered. All right. Are there any questions, Ina, that came up?
Just one about having this in Spanish, a Spanish version so parents understand the layout of Lexia.
In the resource section, so that if you want to move to resources over on the left, there is a Core 5 Resources Hub. If you're looking at Power Up, there's a Power Up Resources Hub. And if you click on that Resources Hub button, it comes to a colorful landing page with just kind of some featured resources and some other activities being highlighted. On the left, there is a menu, and one of the options is School to Home. So in the School to Home menu, there is a School to Home letter that is available in a variety of languages in Core 5. There are 6 languages that the program is that are available. And when we were talking about the student program, I said that you can adjust the language that students hear the directions. So if you wanted the students to hear the directions of the activity in, for example, any of these languages, in Spanish, for example, you can adjust that in the Manage tab. The activity is still in English, but they could hear the directions in Spanish. So here's an example of a letter that is available in Spanish. It explains what Lexia is about, and then it walks through how to log in. Now you might need to adjust this letter a little bit because your students, I believe, are logging in via Clever, so you may need to make a few modifications here, but other than that, it will talk about the kinds of devices the student will need as well as how to log in. If I go back to that Resources Hub, there's an overview letter that's also available in Spanish. That again talks about, just in general, what is the program. So those would be two resources that I think may be of benefit there.
One more question about Lexia and Core 5 and Power Up would be, is it possible to see, for teachers to see the student view, what they see, especially for Power Up?
Yes. Both programs are, this was the homework, but I'm glad you're asking the question because it's important. Because I think that in order to really understand how the program works, you really want to get in there and experiment with the program. And so If you would move to the resources section, on my screen I'm showing an old program called Lexia Strategies, but if you're logged into the Power Up demo or into your site, you'll be seeing Core 5, a column that says Core 5 and a column that says Power Up. And you will have at the bottom of that column a link that says Student Program. So if you click on that link that says Student Program, it will open up a window that will prompt you for a username and password. If you are logged into your district's My Lexia site, you will have a button that says Login via Clever. And all you would need to do is click on that, and there, your Clever login will get you into the student program.
Thank you.
Yep, good. All right, so that's the struggling tab, and really good questions. Thanks. All right, so the other two tabs, the other two class action tabs are the certificates and the skill builders, and I like to talk about them together because they are connected. When a student completes a level, they will be eligible for a certificate. So let me, and their name will appear here. So if I click on this certificate button, I'll be able to see students who've earned certificates in the last 3 weeks that have not been delivered. So these are students who've earned a certificate. You'll have their name and a link to the certificate and the date that certificate was completed. So in order to access the certificate, I'm going to click on this link that says, in this case, Charlotte completed Core 5 Level 1. When I open that up, I'm going to see a really colorful certificate that is represents the skills that Charlotte has mastered. And what you can do is from here you can download it, so you can email it home or you can print it. And then the other thing that you're going to want to do is mark it as delivered. So that's another administrative function here. When I click mark as delivered, then Charlotte's name went off this list, and I know that that task has been done. I can always go back and access all the certificates here. So I can see, okay, here's Charlotte, this was delivered. So I have access to all of the certificates there. Now, while we're talking about certificates, let me also mention that the certificate is also available to be printed in Spanish. So if we go back to our resources tab over here, and it's going to, I'm going to go back to resources, and then I want to click on this Core 5 Resources Hub. So I want to go back to the hub. Lots of good resources in that Core 5 Resources Hub, and Power Up as well. And one of them is student achievement. So right above that school to home is student achievement. So I'm going to click on student achievement, and then I can see that I have here achievement certificates. They're available in English and in Spanish. So if I click on the Spanish option, Charlotte completed level 1. Maybe I want to send the Spanish version home. What you're going to need to do is add Charlotte's name here. It doesn't automatically populate like it does in the other tab, in the data tab, but otherwise the certificate is available for you in Spanish. You can also, there's also different ways to print the certificate. You can print it in a different view. This is a illustrated form, you know, without the I can statements. It can also be printed in black line for I guess, a creative way to color the certificate. You also have general achievement certificates. So let's say you wanted to just acknowledge something else. Maybe a student hasn't completed, but they're starting to meet their minutes, or some other ways to acknowledge progress along the way. So here you have just a general certificate that you can adapt to best meet, what it is you want to acknowledge. And then you have completion certificates. When they're all done with Core 5, there's a completion certificate here in English and in Spanish. All right, so we were talking about when students complete a level. You're going to want to figure out how to celebrate their success. And the certificates are a nice way to do that. And it is a way for you to know that has happened, that they've completed a level. So even if you decide not to use their certificates, but you just want to send them an email home, or call them up, or however you want to do that, to say, congratulations, this is how you're going to know when students have completed a level. I said I wanted to talk about certificates and skill builders together, because once a student has completed a certificate, their name will also appear in the skill builder section. So skill builders are paper and pencil activities designed to help reinforce and help students build automaticity in the skills that they have mastered. So in this case, let's bring Charlotte back. Charlotte was marked as delivered. So let's bring her back here. And so here is Charlotte, and she completed level 1. And so I want to have her practice those level 1 skills, and so that she can just practice them in a way different than how she worked with that same skill online. So in this case, so in level 1, the student is working on categorizing pictures, rhyming, letter matching, nursery rhymes, print concepts. Those are the 5 reading activities that the student was working on in level 1. Finished them all, mastered them all. And now these are different ways to practice those skills, but this time offline. In each of these reading activities, there are sets. So there are 5 pages of activities in categorizing pictures, 6 pages in rhyming, and so on. There's different set sizes. And one thing about the set, the set will go from easier to more complex activities. So let's just take a look at categorizing pictures. So this first page, the student is circling 2 pictures in each box that belong to the same category. Sorry, they're circling, and there's usually a star activity where they're going to use some other ways to express their understanding as well, and to kind of extend the learning. So here they're naming the categories. Are these animals? Are they balls? Or what are they? And this next activity, they're cutting out the pictures at the bottom and finding all the pictures that can be grouped together and glue them into the correct box. So another different activity. And here here's another different activity, circling the 3 pictures that belong in the same category as this picture on the left. And again, name each category, then name something else that belongs in the category. Again, extending that learning a little bit further. So what you might want to do as a teacher, I mean, that's a lot of activities. I mean, there's a lot of pages. Let's go back up here to the top. Remember, there are 26 pages. I mean, Sometimes what schools will do will print packets, and then parents can pick them up at the school at different times, or you could email this packet home. Lots of concern about having to print so many pages. Sometimes depending on the activity, you might suggest that they just, look at the computer screen and then capture answers on a separate piece of paper as a way to conserve paper. So there's lots of different ways to think about this. As a teacher, you might decide, well, I'm not going to send 26 pages home. I'm going to take 1 or 2 pages from each of these categories and send those home. I'm going to show you some additional data where you can see what the student's accuracy and rate is in the level that they completed, and you might use that information. Maybe the student really has got rhyming down but is really struggling with letter matching, and you might want to just focus by sending the letter matching skill builders home. So there's lots of different ways to use this resource, and you can probably think of more ways. So again, once you decide what you're going to do with this, you can mark this as delivered. And then again, Charlotte's name would go off the list, and they would be, then you'd know which students you hadn't addressed yet. So the interesting thing about this 5-minute check-in, it takes longer to talk about it than it will be for you to kind of look at that information. So I'm going to go back to the class table and just ask, were there any questions that came up?
No, not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. So let me take that thread that I started about, you're going to have information, more detailed information about each particular student. And you might use that information to determine how many, what skill builders you want to send home. So let's use Charlotte, for example. We know that she completed level 1. So in this, I'm back in the reading tab. I'm looking at the class table, and I'm just going to select Charlotte's name. I'm going to click on this name, and I'm going to see more information about usage this week, her progress this year, what level is she working in. We know she just finished level 1, so she's just starting level 2. How many weeks did she meet her target number of minutes so far this year? So lots of good information here. What I want to do is I want to look at the skills report. So over here on the upper right is a tab that says skills report. I'm going to click on that because I want to look at, going back to that skill builder, I want to see how did she do in level 1. So there's a lot of information on this page, but basically we're looking at all of the levels in Lexia right here on this continuum. Here's where Charlotte is. She just completed level 1, and it tells you when she started and when she completed when you hover over that check mark, and then you can see how much of level 2 has she completed. So, and below that is the more detailed information. So here, I want to see level 1, so I'm just going to scroll down. Here's level 1, and here is her accuracy and her rate, these columns on the right. So her accuracy is high and her rate is average. In rhyming, and here's her medium accuracy and average rate in letter matching, and so on. So this is totally up to you in terms of how you want to interpret this. You may want to say, well, maybe she doesn't need as much extra practice in those areas where her accuracy was high, that maybe I want to give her more practice in letter matching and more practice in nursery rhymes, because that's where her accuracy was medium. And they use this information to determine how you might approach that skill builder piece of the program. So that's a little bit about how you can go a little bit deeper into the program. You can also, I'm going to go back out to the overview for Charlotte and just show you quickly some other reports. So if you, up here where you have the skills report, that's the one that we accessed. There are more reports. So you can look at a detailed skills report, a progress report, a standards report, and a usage report. So I'm just going to briefly show you the detailed skills report. I don't want to like tip you over the edge here, but I just wanted you to know that you have, if you're kind of curious about when is the student working, you have access to all of this detail that will show you the information by reading activity. You can do just by date, or you could do activity and date. So I can see the date the student worked, the time of day, how much time they spent on each unit, and you'll be able to see how they moved through the program. So these colored symbols represent those steps of instructional branching. So you know exactly what Charlotte was doing as she worked through these activities. So, so you have that detailed information. So I'm going to just back out, go to this breadcrumb area on the upper left and back out of Charlotte. So you have some really good detail about accuracy and rate and exactly about time and their path through the program. Let me say a little bit about what the other kinds of information that's in the table that we haven't talked about. So when you look at this class table, I was saying that you can look at grade level of materials. So if you wanted to sort on that, you can see, okay, I've got some students in level 1, I've got students in level 2, and so on. You can kind of sort that way to look at where they're at in the program relationship to levels. And then you can look at usage. You can see exactly the minutes of everybody. You know, up here was just who needed usage, but here's everybody this week. So if I sorted on total minutes, I've got some students who have worked 0 minutes and some students who have 198 minutes. Now, one of the things that we've found about students working at home, lots of things can happen, right? But sometimes they can have overuse. The highest target number of minutes, and we talked about this on Friday, for our kindergarten through 3rd graders is 60. So if I sort on target, I can see that I've got 3 students who have a target of 60 minutes during the week. And so what you want to suggest is that the student look at the parent, try to find, 3 or so, if they've got 60 minutes, this is a kindergartner, how much time can they actually focus? You might want multiple, at least 5 minutes or so, 5 times a week, or whatever, to get to your target, but just short amounts of time daily. And so they get into a good rhythm, a good pattern, and they're just getting short bites. We know that that frequency will trump duration. So more frequent, shorter amounts is going to be more productive and more powerful practice. So, so you get that information. You'll also get information under progress this week in terms of the number of units that they have gained. So the unit, remember that's that smallest element of the program. In Core 5, 5 minutes is on average what it would take to complete a unit. And so somebody with a target of 60 minutes is going to have a unit target of 12, right? 12 times 5, 20, 60. And so you'll be able to see how many units did the student gain. And so sometimes it's interesting to look at this and let's say if I sort on this, here are some students who have 0 units gained, but look at, oops, they've worked 42 minutes. So there's like some things to talk about with the parent, you know, they're on, but they're not completing units. So they may not really be focusing. So you have some good information here. So that is the other, so that's something to kind of monitor periodically as well, is what is the pattern that they're completing units. The last column, predictor, if I sort on this, and we talked about that, there were some students who are at high risk, some students medium risk, some students are on target with the green boxes. The beginning of every month, the software looks back at the student's progress from the previous month, their rate, the amount of time, their accuracy, where they're at in the program, how far they need to go to get to the end of their grade level by the end of the school year, and say, okay, using all that data, here is the probability that they will get there. So if you hover over these boxes, you'll actually see a percentage. So this student has a 31% probability that they will get to the end of kindergarten by the end of the school year. So just the way of the software giving you some information about risk factor. So so good to play around with the data. Really encourage you to go to this resources tab and to look at the resources hub. We were in there when we were looking at the school to home letter, the student achievement letter. Guides and manuals will give you the complete teacher manual, whether you're in Core 5 or Power Up, the scope and sequence that you have access to, and some really good videos. And under support for instruction, there are some additional resources, some great rhyming flashcards if you need to send home some extra practice. There's some good rhyming flashcards. All of the sight words have been pulled out in Core 5, so you're going to have this access to to flashcards for extra practice on all of the sight words. So that's already been done. And then some really great resources related to vocabulary, so sets of flashcards in all these different categories, as well as flashcards to promote phonological awareness and phonics in levels 1 through 9. And then on the right, you'll be able to find all of the comprehension passages. So if you wanted the student to have a written document for all of the comprehension passages, you'll be able to print that out so that they can have that to annotate and have with them when they're working online. If you're looking for some additional